Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with a bunch of peeps. We have Ashley Hicks. What's up, Ashley?
Hey, what's going on?
And we have Kyle Schrum. Kyle, what's up?
Hello.
Yeah, and Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Oh.
Yep, it's Christmas. No. It's officially Christmas because we're post Thanksgiving. Wait, no.
We don't have time. We don't have time to go into this.
My Thanksgiving's this weekend, so yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have time to go into it either, so I'm just going to skip over that one and mention a couple other things. So announcements from me. Kyle made it very apparent that due to the topic this week, Beets, the vegetable, will be our sponsor because Beets are awesome, and you're going to learn all about why they're awesome in this podcast, and we'll talk about some stuff, different stuff there. AMA, we're still getting submissions there. Just got a new one yesterday, so garagegymathlete.com/AMA. I've already recorded a couple. They'll be in the queue the next couple weeks. They'll be on YouTube and here on the podcast. So new content, answering your guys' questions, and then diving into topics when appropriate. Killing Comfort, the book. Go to killingcomfort.com. Sign up for pre-release information and all that good stuff. But those are my announcements. Now we're going to go to Joe for updates. How's life? What's new?
Well, I survived Vegas this past weekend, and I came back 2 pounds heavier.
Barely.
So there's that.
Wait, 2 pounds heavier. Okay. I'm like everything.
Yeah. So I finally cracked 190, and I'm not okay with it. So I'm going to go for a run after this and run until Spartan Beast, which will publish. Oh, no, not publish, which will be the weekend after this publishes.
Yep. Yeah, that's why we're going to talk a little bit about Spartan today. So you survived Vegas, man. I just what are you tracking any data? Like heart rate variability crushed? No. You don't you're like, I don't even want to track.
I mean, I used to when I wore the Whoop because it was just spit it out right there, but the Garmin doesn't really give heart rate variability, and I just don't want to look at my resting heart rate. So I just look at what we walk, and we walk like 10 to 12 miles a day.
It's interesting. I always look at that stuff because was it 2 weeks ago? My son got sick, and I got like half sick. It's like you don't get fully sick because your immune system works better than theirs. You know what I mean? It's like doesn't stop you from your day. It doesn't stop you from training. I think I've explained this before. I don't consider it sick unless I can't work out that day. If that's when I'm like, okay, that's official. I was sick. I didn't train. But what was interesting about those like 3 or 4 days, my heart rate was like 10 beats per minute higher than normal, and my heart rate variability was crushed. So it's always interesting just to see what happens when your body's like battling something like that. And alcohol can absolutely destroy those things.
It's a battle. Yeah.
All right, Ashley, updates from you.
I'm back in the States officially, but I mean, you kind of ruined that for me last podcast. Thanks.
I stole it. I straight up stole her update.
That's
update
okay.
We're even in the same time zone, which is like crazy.
Yeah, so I'm in Central Time Zone, but I'm in Florida. So we're at Eglin Air Force Base, and we're staying in the TLF. I know, isn't that weird? Florida is kind of like Texas. Like, it's so big, it's in multiple time zones.
I really think like that Eglin, Fort Walton Beach area is destined like the cutoff before the time zone changes. And
I think you're right.
For that reason, I don't remember which part of the year, but I could get off work at like 4:30 and it would be dark outside. You know, and I hated that. Really hated that. But Florida's an awesome place otherwise.
Yeah, we're enjoying it. So we got to see our house that we bought over FaceTime, which was fun.
I bought a house like that once, almost twice.
Yeah.
It worked out though. Like what do you really need to? It's got walls. It's got
Exactly.
There you go.
Sky house, a 2-car garage. It's gonna be great.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait for the garage gym pics.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Kyle, how about you?
Nothing new with me. I kind of have a boring life. No, I'm just kidding.
Or you're not creative in your updates.
Right. Actually,
Yeah.
actually, speaking
Cop-out.
to the whole time zone deal, I live in Tennessee because it's big enough to stretch onto as well. I live right on the line between Eastern and Central. When I go to my parents' house, 30 minutes away, I'm in Central Time. Here at my house, I'm in Eastern Time. So
That is terrible.
I grew up actually having to add and subtract an hour for everything that we did. If we had to go to Chattanooga, I had to add or subtract an hour every time.
Wow.
So, yeah. Anyway,
That was awesome.
things are going well.
Fun fact.
Things are going well. Just getting ready for the Spartan. That was my update last time as well. So,
Are you ready? Because
am I ready?
you've been
Um,
getting
Once
ready.
actually
Like I don't.
ready.
Last time you were on the podcast several weeks ago, so I mean, I just feel like
I'm ready. I'm ready to go do it.
there you go.
Yeah,
You're mentally prepared.
I'm mentally prepared.
And then where would you put yourself physically on a scale of 1 to 2?
1 to 2.
Yeah,
No.
no decimals allowed.
Oh, come on.
I know. Or else you just give me the 1 to 10 scale. You're either ready or not ready. So 1 or 2.
Yeah. Physically, I would say 1.
Okay. All right. Being true.
But I'm mentally ready. I'm mentally ready to go see if I'm right on the 1 to 2 scale.
Got it.
So we'll see how it goes.
All right, quick updates from me. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that Emily, my wife, did her first Murph. It was actually a half Murph, but she did her first Murph last weekend, which was awesome, completely unplanned. There was no like, hey, yeah, you're going to do this with me this day, so on and so forth. She just was like, hey, I'm going to do Murph with you today. I mean, it was in the programming too, so I think that kind of spurred her along. So that was awesome. And I got my second fastest time ever in Murph. So like I just PR'd whatever a few weeks ago. And then there was the PR I hit last time I did a year of Murph. This was faster than the last year Murph PR. So that now has bumped down to my third fastest time was my last year of Murph. This past Saturday was my second fastest Murph. And the only reason is because I was trying to catch her. She was doing a half Murph and she's like, you're going to beat me. She's like, you're still going to beat me even though you're doing the full thing. And I was like, I don't know if I can, but I am going to try. And I just like straight up told her, I wasn't like, oh no, I don't know if I can. I was like, you don't worry. I was like, I don't know if it's possible, but I'm 100% going to try to make that happen. So, and it almost did. She was finishing her run and I could see her. She was about probably a quarter mile or more ahead of me. And I just couldn't do it. Didn't have it in the tank. But it ended up in a really fast time. So that was cool. That was my update there. And then yesterday, instead of doing the programming, which is typically unusual for me, I wanted to run. Because I have not been running at all in preparation for the Spartan race. We've talked about I had the knee thing. I've been adding, a lot of bike stuff when we're doing conditioning, just not a lot of running. So I did 7 miles yesterday for my run. And it's going to be fun, Spartan race, because my hip flexors were destroyed. I found what little elevation and hills that we have around here and just ran them all. And my hip flexors are torn apart today. So that's bad news. That's pretty bad news because on concrete, like it's easy. Like if you're running just on concrete, I'd probably have no problems at all just running as long as you want to run. But when you start having to pick your legs up just slightly more than normal, that's when the hip flexors start to get a little bit more taxed. And I might try and do that one more time before the Spartan race, maybe 10 miles, and then just call it. Be ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to run probably after this podcast. Having some lingering hip issues from this past year, but just going to see how it goes.
Dude, I think those physical therapists are getting in your head, making you think you're just like broken.
You're always broken.
No, I think they fixed a lot of me, but there's just a lot of me to fix.
And then they sell you on what's broken next. They're like, hey, why don't you come back? You get a little.
I mean, like we said, it's mostly a social visit. They just social visit with some soft tissue work. It's okay.
Joe needs friends.
I do.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Joe, can we do this this time tomorrow? You're like, well, I have a massage. I'm like, all right, dude. What is this physical therapy? I didn't get one massage in my physical therapy visits this year. Not a single massage. I don't know how you pulled that off. Maybe
You're doing it wrong.
You just like me so much.
You got to be friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into Beets. Right?
It's what's for dinner.
Yeah.
All right, so we have, it should be, and we'll get into it. So the actual study, and we're going to kind of take a broader approach here, but the study is no longer beating around the bush. I like how they got creative. This is the actual name of the scientific study. So no longer beating around the bush, a review of potential sex differences with dietary nitrate supplementation by Wickham and Sprite? Here in 2000. Let's go Sprite. 2019, done up in the Canada area. Pretty cool. So I want to give a quick, just if you guys didn't know. So I wrote an article a long time ago about beets in general. Then we'll hop into the study. But so dietary nitrate, you've probably seen, what was that popular supplement back in the day? Everyone took it. It was like
No Explode?
Yes, you knew it right away. No Explode. And so the whole premise behind supplements like that working, other than the excessive amounts of caffeine and other junk that they put in there, is dietary nitrate. So dietary nitrate from beets hits the saliva in your mouth and introduces itself to the bacteria on your tongue. This brings the compound from NO3 to NO2, which is active nitrite. Next, this new couple heads into the stomach and meets another new friend, stomach acid. Boom, NO2 is now reduced to NO, or nitric oxide. So that's the process, and it's this nitric oxide that increases blood flow to your muscles and increases your ability to produce energy. It's pretty interesting. And in the study, another thing that they mentioned was in 1992, it was awarded Molecule of the Year. So that's quite a prestigious award for a molecule to get. And I'm sure that nitric oxide is holding on to that plaque somewhere in its bedroom or office. All right, that's the breakdown of nitric oxide and how awesome it is. So getting into the study, I'll just go over to the quick. So it was a narrative review. Have you guys seen one of these yet? I've not seen a narrative review. This is my first.
I was confused about it, how it related to the systemic review or whatever we've done before.
So a lot of those other ones, like a meta-analysis or
Yeah,
systematic review, like those are studies in and of themselves. So what they do is they're like, hey, we're gonna study studies as our study. But they have to set all these parameters about what their study will include. They'd be like, okay, well, if you didn't have females in your study, we're going to throw it out. If you didn't have this, throw it out. So they set their parameters. That's what like a meta-analysis will do. A narrative review is they just literally pull all of the literature on a specific topic and they give you the findings or the idea. So they're not studying the studies necessarily or having any strict criteria. The narrative review, they're just like looking at everything, which is cool because it doesn't throw anything out and you really get to look at everything. But what they found, more than 100 studies, all had male-only samples compared to 7 studies with only females. So there's just not a wide range of male and females in literature in general. And that's something I'll get into more. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the study. I can start with Joe.
It was very sciencey. It was kind of hard to get into at first for that. But it looks like it was, I guess I don't know if other narrative reviews do this for, it seemed like the main motivation was to spur another study. So it's like they tried to find the limitations in all these just so they can propose another study.
Did you call a scientific study sciencey?
Question mark?
What did I say?
I said, did you call a scientific study sciencey?
Yes.
It's very sciencey.
Science was sciencey.
A lot of them end that way. They're like, more research is necessary, and it's kind of just taking the next steps. But yeah, they really dive into it. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
Well, for being a female, I wish they would have done a little more female scientific research, but that's fine. And then, but at the end of it, I mean, at the end of the day, beets are not bad for you, right? And that's what he says. He's like, might as well just continue to take these beets because there's no negative effects on this. So whether you're male or female, just eat some beets, and apparently it is not bad for you. So
Yeah, and that's how I look at almost everything when we dive into these studies is just the ROI. You know, what's my cost versus the ROI. You know, and if the cost is, oh, well, you're going to have to eat a vegetable to see possible increases in performance. Okay, like why not do it when there are other things of like, oh, well, you have to like dip your head in cold water and then get your hands cold and be upside down to see this potential performance benefit. You're like, I don't know if it's worth it. But eating a vegetable for increased performance seems pretty straightforward. Kai, what were your thoughts?
I just kind of thought about it from a grassroots athlete perspective, and that's kind of what we're doing, is trying to boil it down to, you know, kind of the layperson level. And because I think it referenced that, which some of the studies had, you know, only looked at people who are very active, and then other studies looked at kind of a range of people, the range of activity, and it was pretty straightforward of what you would kind of expect of like people who were not as athletic, and then started supplementing with the nitrate. They saw better benefits than the people who were already athletic. And so that's just kind of a straightforward thing of, you know, this is something that if you're just a beginner, you're going to see better benefits from it. But it doesn't mean that as you progress, you won't keep seeing benefits from it. It's just that same thing of, as you get more athletic, or as you know, increase your work capacity and things like that, like these effects are not as big because you don't have as much work to do. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And sometimes things can be like counterintuitive to that, because like if you are not super healthy and you drink a ton of caffeine and then you try a different supplement, like a nootropic, you're like, I didn't see any cognitive benefit whatsoever. But it's like, well, you're not healthy at all, so your body's not like working properly to do this stuff. And then you're kind of saying the opposite, is like the non-athletes saw the greatest results, and then the athletes saw the least results.
Yep.
But as long as they saw results, I mean,
that's all.
That's it. That's what matters.
It's always going to be a smaller percent with the well-trained.
And that's something that you have to look at and keep in mind. So I pulled up some other studies, just beets in general, and then I want to go back to the female versus male thing and kind of, well, if everybody has like their own takeaway from the study, like we'll go over that, because I think my takeaway might be a little bit different than just the conclusion of the study. But from other studies, and we'll link to a lot of these in the show notes, but dietary supplementation with beetroot juice speeds VO2 kinetics and enhances exercise tolerance during severe intensity. I've never heard of that before, by the way. That's how it's actually labeled in the study. So severe intensity exercise when initiated from an elevated metabolic rate. Beetroot juice treatments increase plasma nitric oxide concentration and decrease cardiac afterload and myocardial oxygen demand at rest and during 3 submaximal levels of aerobic exercise. Beetroot juice positively affects performance of swimmers as it reduces the aerobic energy cost and increases the workload at anaerobic threshold. A single dose of beetroot juice lowered VO2 during submaximal exercise and enhanced the time trial performance of trained cyclists in normobaric hypoxia, and has been shown to improve 2,000-meter rowing performance in highly trained athletes. And there are at least 60 other studies, aside from creatine. I think beets may now, because it's not technically a supplement. There are a lot of beet supplements on the market right now, and we can talk about that. But I really feel that after creatine and caffeine, beets may be like the most studied performance enhancer for athletes now, because there's just so much literature on it, and there's nothing really that negative about it, unless you have some sort of, other than if you've consumed a lot of beets, your urine color and your poop can get a little bit scary, like real fast, if you don't know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's go takeaways. We'll start with you, Joe. Like, what's your takeaway from the study?
Well, one of their things is they wanted to study male and female, like the difference between that. But I think a baseline for those would be good. And this is probably a side thing about how or if you take, and I've seen this before, is that a male and female on lifting like 90% of their 1 rep max for max reps, I think females will always lift more reps for some reason, and I forget why. So that if they do more studies on these, because one of the things that they wanted to focus on is submax effort and lifting, is to get that baseline first and then do it with that. But yeah, it's easy to supplement with because apart from beets, there's celery. There's certain other dark greens and things like that also have it. So you can throw those in the juices as well. And another main takeaway would be if you're focusing on the actual, nitrate, don't supplement with it, like actual supplement, like buy supplements.
You're saying don't supplement with
like
nitric oxide.
Well, don't buy in supplement form. Just get beets. Just get the real stuff.
That's the easiest way. I mean, a lot of the supplements out there that do it now, from the scary version, InnoExplode, I would agree 100%. But then there are other ones that are like dehydrated. They're just dehydrated beets, and so it is pretty easy to just eat it. But I did religiously consumed beets for this reason for maybe a year or more. And I would make an argument for supplementing if it's like strict organic dehydrated beets, because I was juicing the beets because I don't want to I was trying to do it as a pre-workout, right? I don't want to pre-workout consume a bunch of beets. But I'll drink it. So I was drinking the beet juice, and that's just a lot of work, man. Juicing it and everything, it just became a lot of work. Even though I did it for a long time, I stopped doing it because juicers are messy and a problem. I also haven't tried any of these supplements out yet, so I'm not saying I've done it, but I could see why someone might.
So I went the more nasty route and just consumed them. I would just pop a small beet in my mouth 30 to 40 minutes before a workout and call it a day.
That's awful.
Yeah, it wasn't that great because most of the time what I would be eating, because I didn't want to cook them myself, I would eat the canned beets, which just have zero flavor.
Yep. I actually hate beets. I mean, I just really don't like the flavor of beets at all. So
yeah, I don't really mind them. It's whatever. I tried the fermented ones because they actually taste a little bit better, but then it's just so gassy in my stomach. And funny enough, as I was perusing through your article and some of the comments, somebody posted that if you eat the fermented ones, it loses 90% of the nitrates.
There you go.
And they posted a study supporting it. So don't do the fermented ones because
that's good to know.
You lose the benefits, and it makes you kind of gassy.
Yeah. I wonder what it strips the beets of, to make the nitrates go away.
Fermenting in life in general is just a magical thing that I don't understand, but
same with just cooking things, right? You cook a vegetable, it's not as good. And I just want to go back to your study on females. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but you just reminded me of it. It was about a female runner, ultra runner, who was trying to break maybe running record across the Appalachian Trail or something like that. But they had an interesting fact in that documentary. It was after 50 miles, after the 50 mile distance, the difference between male and female athletes drops to zero. It becomes how males are typically higher performing in most sports in distances and everything like that. But after mile 50, in these ultra sports, the difference between male and females is almost non-existent. And they are pointing to female mental toughness and, all these other things over longer duration and periods. But I just found that really interesting. I don't know if they were just talking, it wasn't a study. They were just talking about in the results of ultra races that it can be, if it's over 50 miles, it's up for grabs whether or not a male or female will win it. So that's just an interesting fact. Ashley, what was your takeaway?
My takeaway is beets have the capacity to improve or influence your muscle function. So, I mean, like I said earlier, why not take them? There's not a negative effect to them. And then kind of to jump on the Kyle bandwagon, if you will, for us, if it's a garage gym athlete, just kind of what we tell our athletes too, if you have been working out for a while, you're going to see results potentially in a longer period of time, in a longer span. So maybe, the beets, you would see something happen within a longer time frame versus like, oh, I'm just going to try this for a week or two or something like that. So
yeah, definitely long. And I really do think the timing matters if you read into a lot of the studies.
Like when you take it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then going all the way back to the Game Changers movie, they're talking about the vegetables like dilating blood vessels and, making blood flow better and all these other things. Well, beets do that. And so does a lot of like leafy greens and everything. And you can eat the vegetables that produce that effect, but also consume meat. It's not a one or the other. It's not keto or vegan. Like carnivore or vegan, you can get the same effects of opening up those blood vessels with beets alone, no matter your diet. Kai, what was your takeaway?
Well, Ashley kind of took mine, but I appreciate
Sorry.
her jumping on my bandwagon. So I have a bandwagon now. That's a pretty big deal.
Wagon of two.
Right. Hey, you got to start somewhere, man.
It's better than one.
It's true. I would say, as far as like one thing that kind of stood out to me was the reason that they said more studies need to be done for women is because of those biological markers, specifically of a study of it may show that it doesn't affect women as much, especially when it talks about heart rate, because beets can help lower your resting heart rate. And they made the point that women in general have a lower resting heart rate than men anyway. And so it's kind of the same thing, like I said earlier, depending on your athletic level, they're going to affect you in different ways. But also, if your heart rate is already lower than somebody else's, your numbers may not drop as much, or the percentage may not be as much or something like that. And I think the point for that is like when you're looking at these things and you're looking at results from studies and in articles and things like that, it's nice to have some information, but also the best thing to do is just go and test it on yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And if it gets you results, then that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter what, the study says or anything like that. And so, if you eat beets and they help you out a lot, then eat beets every single day. If you eat beets and they make you sick, then don't eat beets anymore. You know what I mean? But don't compare, like your experience with beets to somebody else's. Just find what works for you and do it. Also, it kind of convinced me that maybe I need to eat some more beets, but
Awesome.
I don't think I'm really there yet. We'll see.
You should start experimenting with as many beets in your diet before the Spartan race.
I am absolutely not going to do it before the Spartan race.
I'm going to put a can of them in my fanny pack.
Yeah. I'll have the salt biscuits. He'll have the beet.
Salt biscuits and beets.
There we go. Delicious rest stops. Okay. So great takeaways. I love the N=1 thing that you're talking about. A lot of people I highly encourage that. Like the only experiment that matters is the one that's going to make a difference for you. It doesn't matter. Yep. These studies are just a jumping off point for everybody, right? It's like, am I headed in the right direction? It's like, well, science says this might be effective. Like, okay, and let me go see if it's effective for me. I think that's a great takeaway. I would say the obvious takeaway is eat beets. Yes, there might be some difference between male or female. I think it's all moving in the right direction. They said the author suggests that compared to men, women have higher baseline plasma nitrite and experience larger increases in plasma nitrate, but experience smaller reductions in blood pressure and less consistent improvements in exercise economy following nitrate supplementation. So it helps, but maybe not as much. But the big takeaway I had was understanding a study, and they mentioned the sex gap in here. There's oftentimes a population gap. There are always these gaps in performance, things that you guys have already mentioned in our conversation, like was this study done on trained athletes or untrained athletes? Was it male, predominantly female, things like that. Whenever you're looking at a study to try and prove your point or head down a different direction, or you just make a decision, you really have to dive in just a little bit deeper to the study than reading the conclusion statement, which is, beets are good for you. You need to really put that in perspective of, is it helping the same population as you? Like, is that, because that does make a huge difference. They have actual markers here that's saying it's a little bit different from what little data they have on females versus males. But I think that's true in a lot of different studies. Is like, okay, who was the study done on? Are they the same age? All these other factors that you need to look into. So that'd be my takeaway. If you read studies, if you only rely on us to read studies for you, that's fine too. We'll try and give you the best information possible. All right, that's it. That's beets. Does anybody have anything else on beets? Eat them. It's going to lower your blood pressure and make you live longer. All right, let's hop over to Spartan race prep. That's the topic for today. So you guys won't hear from us again until after the race is complete. So let's talk about our last parting shots, prep, things that you have, anything that you're doing, thoughts. I'll start with you, Joe. What prep? So, and the reason I want to go into this is because none of us has specifically trained for a Spartan. Like I just mentioned, I've done one 7-mile run. Like that's it, and so none of us have we're training for this half marathon in the mountain with 30 obstacles. Like we didn't train for it specifically. So what prep have you been doing mentally, nutritionally, anything aside from going to Vegas and maybe derailing a lot of your progress?
All bets are off.
And if the answer is nothing, I'll just move on to the next person. But Joe, what prep are you doing or plan to do before the race?
Mentally, I've been looking at the weather and hoping it gets warmer. That's my prep.
Hoping is always a good strategy.
Yeah, it's probably not going to work, but here we go. And then I'm about to start running. I'm going to go for a run now. Hopefully address any smashing and flexibility and stuff that I just need to work out and loosen up versus, yeah. So focusing more on that, not too much.
So you're just going, crack the knuckles, let's get going.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm just going to ignore it until it's there and like, oh, hey, okay, I'll go do this. That's fine.
It's the perfect strategy. How about you, Ashley?
I've been doing weighted box step-ups, whether that be with like a sandbag or like a plate. And then if we have, like yesterday I had box jumps in it. So I've been doing 24 inches, not necessarily 30, but just to, I don't know, explode up more, I guess, and make it harder. And then I've been running on my off days, which typically I don't work out 7 days a week. I'm only at 6. I'm not at Jared level, so I'm not getting too crazy.
Hey, been my schedule's been crazy lately, so I've been at like 5.
Yeah, so tomorrow will be, but I'm not at like 7 miles. I'm maybe more like 4 or 5 is the longest I've done yet. So I probably need to up that too. But yeah, and then I'm just staying on my normal macros, especially for the women's health stuff right now. But definitely race day, I will not be doing low carb. So that's going to go out the window.
And really you need to start like increasing carb intake, probably, my opinion is 7 days out. And so not any like aggressive carb loading meal like the day before, but if you consume 200 grams of carbs a day, like increase to 250 every day leading up to just, and I've mentioned this before, there's no way to know if your glycogen stores are full. Like it's impossible to know that. So you just have to eat more carbohydrates and fill them up. Kyle, what are you doing? There's got to be some prayer involved, right?
There's definitely prayer involved. Actually, I also trying to work on my mental toughness where I don't get peer pressured into stuff anymore. But this
like
is gonna
a
be,
race.
Yeah, like
Oh,
this,
yeah, like a race.
The only reason we're doing this race is because of you.
It's not what? No.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not the
brought
one who
it up
did it.
in our Slack chat.
Well, then I got peer pressured by Trampus and the other Kyle. That's who peer pressured.
Yeah, that's
Blaine,
they did
That's
it
what
to
happened.
you. It didn't. I wasn't like, hey, this is a great idea. I was more like, oh, I'll piggyback onto that good idea.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
That's what happened. I'm not the leader of this.
I remember getting peer pressured. That's how I remember.
That's a story I tell myself.
Yeah, just trying to stay consistent with the programming, and actually thinking that maybe this cycle as a team we should have done enduro track
100%
H2K.
Yeah.
You wanted to do strength. You just wanted to lift heavy things.
I want to do strength all the time. That's just my default. And then maybe I survive the Spartan race, maybe I don't. But I was doing what I wanted to do beforehand. Anyway, this is going to be the longest distance I've ever done. The Spartan race, the Spartan Super I did in July was the longest that I've ever done. So now I'm going to break that PR with this one, and will probably be the longest distance I'll ever do. I don't really see myself going any further than half marathon, but got some new shoes. That's one thing that I would say to people, like, don't skimp on the shoes that you wear, because I wore cheap shoes for the first 2 Spartans I did, and yeah, I got some good shoes this time, so hopefully those will help out, because you can't really run the race.
You're making me rethink my shoe game.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, just trying to stay consistent and have a positive outlook, and just, try not to die.
We're gonna have an Innovate team, yeah? You got Innovates?
Yep. Innovate.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're all Innovate. Great. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in the shoe market, so
I won't get Innovates. I bought one pair, and that won't happen again. Not because they're bad shoes, because my foot's so narrow, and they don't agree with that. Apparently.
I thought they were better for narrow feet.
Yeah, that's what mine are narrow too.
No, they are. I don't have narrow feet. What did I just say? I have.
You have narrow feet.
I don't.
You had narrow
The opposite of what I just said is the truth.
You don't even know your own feet, bro.
I have very wide feet at every point of the foot. So I'm running in Ultras. So I have the same Ultras I did the Spartan in. I bought them when I moved to North Carolina and did a bunch of trail running in them. I wore them for the Spartan that we did last year. And then I left them in a bag with mud on them for about 8 months. And just pulled them out and hosed them off, and that's what I'll be running in. And next week. They're a little stiff. I think that things are breaking.
A little stiff.
They're a little stiff. They could use some like conditioning. Well, that's what I don't. Okay, you know what? I'll take this as a personal note. We don't have to talk about it anymore, and I'll address it later. So shoe game, I think, is important. That's right. But they are good shoes. I love the Ultras when they're newer. All right. The only other thing I'll hit on, so things I'm doing to prep. If you are supplementing or plan to supplement during the race, we've talked about this before, just making sure you test that stuff ahead of time. You see what I got here?
Cheddar biscuits or salt biscuits?
That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
That looks like a biscuit container.
When
It looks like a biscuit box.
Emily brought these two. I'm going to open it up real quick. And for all of those who can't see this isn't going on YouTube, so I apologize. Let's see here. I'm going to open it up where I can show.
Unboxing video.
It's an unboxing audio. But look, it's like a KFC box. Like,
yeah, that's why it's biscuits.
That's what it looks like.
But they're the Cliff blocks that they actually give you in the race. I had a good experience with them during that Spartan race. I think Joe vividly remembers it. I was like a ghost about halfway through the race, and then I had like 5 of those blocks, and I started running again. What?
Oh, is it the little gel things?
Yeah, they're like.
I remember the Gatorade ones. I thought they were made by Gatorade, but I don't know if they were also those.
Gatorade makes them too.
Oh, and I have 2 boxes. So if you guys.
2 fanny packs. We're good to go.
I also have a lot, so I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm really bringing more for everyone else who's not listening or ignoring our advice right now. They're like going to run with us, and they're like, no, I'll be fine. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll give you a little glucose halfway through. Just make sure you're all right. So that's it. Making sure that stuff's good with you. I mentioned carb loading, doing that probably starting the Friday before the race, or Friday a week before the race. Increasing my this Friday, increasing carbohydrate intake. I'll start doing that because of whatever. It's almost noon right now. I haven't had a carbohydrate yet. Like that's a bad boat to be in when you're going to these races. So I have to flip that around, and then maybe I'll just go vegan. That's a good idea.
Don't.
No. That was a big reason I stopped that. And then hydration. Hydration really starts at least 3 or 4 days before, and hydration also involves electrolytes, not just the water. So I've already started. There you go. Oh wait, we're going to talk about that in a second. I've already started increasing electrolyte intake in water, and I'm not trying. Like a lot of the stuff I'm doing is more performance based. Like the recommendations, like, hey, if you really want to crush this race, do all these things. Like, and that's not what we're going out there to do. Like we're not trying to set PRs. I'm just looking to finish. I don't want anybody to get injured. I want to help people out if they need help and have a good time. So some of this could be overkill, but I think we're going to kill enough comfort doing a half marathon on a mountain that I don't also need a cramp or, dehydration or something else to add to that misery. So that's why I'm taking a lot of these things into account. Now, going to a vote, because I think that of the 4 here, we may have a split. Kill Cliff or Fit Aid? All in favor of Fit Aid, say aye. Aye.
Kyle's a betrayer.
So that's Joe and I, and then all in favor of Kill Cliff, say no.
Woo woo, Kill Cliff.
I'm not saying no. I actually haven't. I'm going purely based on taste because I think I recover the same from both of them. So the Kill Cliff just tastes better. Like
no,
I don't like the agave in Fit Aid. I think is what it is too. Like I was trying to figure out what is it, and then I read the ingredients. I was like, oh, it has agave in it.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
And I'll drink my Fit Aid at the finish line because I'm gonna want to drink something, and that's gonna be fine. But
I'll pass mine to Jared.
I normally drink a lot of Fit Aids after I'm done. It's not normally just one. Anybody who doesn't want theirs, if I can go back and act like I didn't get one already, any tricks I can just do to squeeze at least 2 or 3 Fit Aids. And then maybe
way less ingredients in Fit Aid. Just saying.
Maybe I'll bring some Fit Aids to the house afterwards. And all right, anybody on the fence, this is your last chance. Last chance. If anyone is listening to the podcast, register, join the Garage Gym Athlete team, get off the fence. I know there's at least one guy listening to this in Kansas. Not going to go any further into naming names, but he talked about coming. You need to come. And that's about it on that. Now we can move to the workout. Let's see. Kyle, you are going to brief it. What's the workout, man, and how do we do it?
Yeah, I forgot I volunteered for that. Yeah, this one's easy though. The workout's not easy.
There we go.
Brief is easy.
Okay.
Dia De Los Muertos. That's as good as my Spanish accent's gonna get. It's 2 death by workouts. So if you've never done a death by workout, they're actually really fun. It's actually one of my favorite formats of workout. Very simple, but you really got to push yourself in the later rounds. And they'll sneak up on you sometimes. But the first workout is a death by 10-meter sprint. So you're going to have a running clock. And so in the first minute, you do 1 10-meter sprint. In the second minute, you do 2 10-meter sprints. Third minute, you do 3, all the way until you cannot complete the number of sprints you have to do within the minute. So each round, whatever time you're not spending sprinting, you're spending resting. So like I said, the early rounds can kind of trick you and kind of lull you into a sense of security, and then those later rounds come up and really kick you in the butt. After you die on the sprints, you're going to rest in death for 5 minutes. Then you're going to do death by push-ups, and it's the same format. So the first minute you'll do 1 push-up, second minute 2, on and on and on, until you can't finish the number of push-ups in the minute anymore, and then you're done and officially dead.
And this was my, other than Murph or the EO3 5K, this is probably my favorite workout to program when I was in the military for large groups, when I was a physical training leader, because especially if there are a lot of new people, because you start off so easy, it's incredibly deceptive. Like if it's your first time ever doing a death by workout, you're like, this is dumb. Like that's how you start. You're like, this is dumb. I thought I was going to get a workout today, especially in the running one. You run 10 meters in a minute and you're like, okay. But by the end, you're like sprinting your ass off, and it gets pretty serious pretty fast. So they're a lot of fun. I'd like to hear Joe's thoughts on how it's, I feel like it's impossible to game this, but he always has a strategy, and I think maybe this one might stump him. So what do you have, Joe?
I don't think there's a strategy, but I don't know. The only thing that I would do for the sprints is not actually sprint the first couple.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Because I've done those workouts in the past where you start off like that and you're like, okay, I'm just going to leisurely do this. But other than that, no, there's not really anything you can do. You can't just go
that would help on the sprints, but this isn't just a go faster advice that I always give, but with the push-ups, I would actually recommend trying to get the push-ups done as fast as you can. Because if you want to stretch your 15 push-ups out over the course of a minute, that's actually going to hurt you in the long run. So like get the push-ups done as fast as you can. That way you get as much rest as you can. Sprinting, that's a little bit different metabolically. So yeah, if you want to coast until you can't. I mean, I had some pretty, I've never seen someone get into the 30s on the push-ups, but I've seen high 20s, and I've also seen above 20 on the sprints.
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty intense stuff. And normally...
That's a boss individual.
Yeah, normally done on like a...
Cleats for that.
Yeah, you need like running at cleat styles, or like shuttle style, is the best way to do it, in my opinion. All right, strategy from Kyle or Ashley. You guys have anything?
Ladies first.
Take your beet juice.
Yes.
No. And then don't coast on the sprints, because then it's not a sprint.
So I disagree
You're
with
just getting
you.
warmed up. Don't pull something. Don't pull something the first couple of
Well,
rounds.
warm
You
yourself
warm up before you
start.
go.
Exactly.
All right, Kyle, you have anything?
No, I don't think there's really any strategy to it. It's one of my favorites to do, actually. I like the death by format is just really simple. And especially for this one, you need no equipment. Like anybody can do it. You know what I mean? If you've got 10 meters to sprint and you've got a timer, like you can go get a cheap watch at Walmart, to keep your time, and you find a way to walk off or measure out 10 meters, you can do this workout. So like, there's really nobody that can't do it, except people who just refuse to do it, and I think that's what I like about it. It's the epitome of simple, not easy. Just get out and do it. And say, don't skimp on the sprinting. It's not a sprint if you're not sprinting. It's a jog.
It's a jog.
It's a jog. You can't even jog for 10 meters anyway. You might as well just sprint it. Right? It's 10 meters.
Yeah.
I would actually, when I did program this in the military, there are people who just don't care, right? And so they would game it, because the whole thing is like, once you can't do it anymore, you're out. So some people would like just kind of try, just enough to look like they're trying. And then,
like done at 5.
And then they're done at like 7 or something. And like, oh, and then I would put caps on it of like, if you don't make it to this number, you're running 5 miles, or you'll do planks until the rest of us are finished. Like I would always do that. Unfortunately, I can't do that to anybody listening, just because it's not enforceable. But hey,
you can do it to Joe, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that workout.
Oh, if I jog the first couple, I'll make it way past 10.
Let's see. Well, I'm gonna have to fit in Murph while we're in North Carolina. You guys thinking the day before or the day after the?
Okay. What do you think? No,
not day before.
With you.
Not before. Okay.
No. Maybe do it Thursday.
I'm not joking. I will probably do it the day before. Not because I want to be hardcore, but after, way worse. Because I'm be so jacked up. You guys don't have to do it. Don't worry about it. You can watch.
I'm not doing it.
Joe's like, it wasn't even a thought in my head.
You don't have to give me that permission. That's not happening.
RSVP, no.
Well, you guys are just gonna sit there at the cabin and watch me do it then?
Yep.
Probably.
Okay.
Or watch something else.
You'll probably be done by the time I get there.
Yeah.
I'll do like a mobility session while you do Murph. We'll be rolling out and
Kyle and I can do the tightrope.
I want to add a
slack
swim
line.
to Murph.
Slack line.
Oh yeah, I'll bring the slack line. I also think I should do how about a mile swim instead of a mile run?
No, in the cold water. What is wrong with you?
And mile swim's way longer, like way harder than a run. It's like the worst thing on the planet. Okay, that's it, guys. I won't drag this podcast on anymore. Except for saying, I'll take it this week. You guys are off the hook. Join Garage Gym Athlete because it's awesome, and we are meeting up as a community here in like a week in North Carolina to get together with some badass athletes and do a really fun race. And it is going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. And I think the community is the biggest thing that sets us apart from anything else. Like we have amazing programming, but programming is only as good as the people who do it, and the people who will stick to it. So I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of other programming services out there. So sign up for Garage Gym Athlete. You can go to garagegymathlete.com, do that at any time. You have a 14-day free trial, and that is it. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me, and that's all we have on Beets and Spartanness. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.